my goal. Say, eat my goal. Eat my goal.
Hello and welcome back to another special edition of the Jags cast. As you can see, we're joined by the normal regulars of Donner's 32. I think he's a regular now. He's done a few now. Ian Clarkson 69 and Alan is on number. So as you can see, we're also joined by a very special guest. So 281 appearances, 56 goals, signed on the 20th of May 2009 after trial games. I think it was in the reserves. Made his debut away to Airdrie as a half-time sub for Chris Doolan, ironically. Home debut against Berwick in the CIS Cup first round. Again, come on as a half-time sub for Mark Corcoran. Scored his first goal after 52 minutes in Jags colours, and then his second after 87 minutes in a 5-1 win. And his last Jags goal was in a 1-0 win in the 1st of September 2018 against Morton, which will be remembered probably more for other things that happened in that game rather than very special guest, Chris Erskine. Welcome, Chris, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
Now, I need to cut into this with the stats. We'll talk about games and goals as we go through. I was looking through. Your last game for Thistle, ironically, was against this club, Falkirk. It really did me like much, Chris, because I looked at your stats, 11 assists and 10 goals. It might actually be 13 assists, but I wasn't too sure about two of them. But that's a phenomenal. Were they just a club, just their style of play as well, that just seemed to fit for you?
I've no idea. I didn't know I'd scored that many, but I knew if I had to choose who I'd scored my most goals against, I'd have said them or Ross County, because I think I scored a good few against Ross County as well. But I knew I had scored a few there. I think I scored plenty at the Falkirk Stadium as well, so it wasn't like kind of just at home as well. So I don't know what it was about them. I couldn't guess, but I kind of knew that they were up there for me.
To be fair, a right few crackers against them as well. They weren't just tappins.
I know you'll probably ask me that later, but there's a couple of, probably two in my top three are against Falkirk, to be fair. So, but it's just, I think, see every kind of attacking player, they'll have a team that they like playing against. If you ask kind of any of them, and probably like I said there, Ross County and Falkirk were the two for me where when I was playing, I just felt like I would probably score every game kind of thing.
Aye. Well, you started off. You come through boys club football. I think it was local East Kilbride. Was it called Calderwood Blue Star? I think boys club. And then you joined Lakeside as an 18-year-old. You were there for 4 years, but you were also, it was part time, so you were a pipe fitter. Was it up in the Glasgow shipyards, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I worked down in Scotstoun and Govan, just kind of in between there. So it was when I was 18, like you said, it was just an apprenticeship I had for 4 years, and just kind of got my trade just in time, really. The 4 year, I had just completed my 4 years when I'd had a couple of trials in at Thistle, and then obviously signed my contract for the first year.
Mm-hmm. What was it? What was the big thing? Was that a good grounding for you? Let's say, because it's not something nowadays that really professional footballers are doing now. You don't really see many coming from the juniors, which used to be a regular thing, way back as well.
Yeah, I think when I look back now, I think it's a really good grounding, and I thought that when I was at Thistle and throughout my whole career, kind of thing, when you see the kind of younger lads coming through from the youth teams, and a lot of them, like come straight from school, straight into the youth development teams, and then they get to the point they're at the under-20s and round about the first team or whatever it is. And I'm not saying they don't appreciate it as much as I did, but I think having that that kind of background where I was working just the same as every other person. I was up at 6 a.m. and at the shipyards for 7, and then going home whatever 4 or 5 o'clock and back out to play football at night for the love of it, really. So I think I always, from early on when I signed for Thistle, I always kind of made it so that I tried not to moan about it as much as possible, even though I'm quite a moany character anyway. But I would have had my moans over the years, I'm sure, about this and that. But I think I was always looking at it as being in a kind of fortunate position.
You know what, Chris? Your wee buddy, Lawless, when we had him on in the past, he actually spoke about when he was at Motherwell, and he felt that the making of him was going down to the loan moves at Albion Rovers, you know. But I mean, certainly the junior football, from our perception of junior football, is just getting booted everywhere. You must have taken some sore ones back then.
I did definitely take some sore ones, and it's probably when I went to Ladeside, I was more a kind of central midfielder when I was younger. I was always a kind of right in the middle of the park. I played up front when I was younger as well, but when I got to that age, for Calderwood Blue Star, like you mentioned there, I was playing central midfield as part of a 2 the whole time. And then when I went there, I think the manager right away just said, nah, like, you're too skinny, you're too young, you'll get it alive in the middle, and he flung me kind of out in the left, and I played most of my days out there. But it was quite an eye-opener as an 18-year-old. I went with one of my good friends, Jamie Longworth, who was at Queen's Park, Stranraer, teams like that, Alloa. Me and Jamie went down there at the same time. I remember one of my first games, I couldn't tell you the boy's name, to be honest, but he was like kind of old school guy, he'd been in the game for 20 years or whatever, played junior football, he was a bit of a hard man and stuff, and he was in my team, thankfully. But something happened in the second half. This is literally one of my first games. Something happened in the second half. There's a bit of a stramash in the box. The defender falls down. He's lying on his back. The ball gets cleared, and obviously the referee and everybody else runs after it. But this boy's still on the deck, and the boy in my team just took his foot and just stamped right on him in the middle of the box, and I'm like that. as an 18-year-old thinking, what have I got myself into, kind of thing. But see, in fairness, after that, like, we had a right good team down at Kilburn. We started off in the bottom division, and we won the couple of leagues on the way up. And then the year I left and signed for Thistle, they get promoted into the Super League. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it. We had a great bunch of boys. Like I said, one of my good friends, Jamie, was there. Boy Davey Anderson, that signed for Queen's Park as well. When Rangers were in the second division, he got nominated for Player of the Year and stuff in that division. He was a brilliant player. And with loads of others that I could mention as well. But no, I had good times there.
See, like, on the junior football, would your paths across with Doolin at the time?
We've spoke about this before. So Auchinleck were in the top division. So like I said, I never actually got to play in the top division of the juniors because we were kind of down the leagues. But the only time we played Auchinleck was kind of at the end of the season. It used to be the winners of the leagues went into this kind of cup competition or something like that. I can't remember what it was called. It was like the Evening Times Cup.
Evening Times Cup.
Aye, so that's what it was. So we went to play Auchinleck, but we had just won the league maybe a week or two before. We'd been kind of on the booze or whatever, and then the manager had just kind of left a lot of us on the bench. So I only came on as a sub, but I remember people talking about Dools at the time, and then when I came on, I only came on with like 10 minutes to go or something. I'm almost certain it was Dools nutmegged me on the edge of the box and then worked on in the top corner. So I think
it would be telling you about it forever.
I don't think he remembers it either, to be fair, but I'm almost certain it was Dools. Like thinking a way back to then, I'm sure it was him, but that's the only time we ever kind of crossed paths.
Brilliant. Superb.
Well, in May 2009, you'd been playing sort of trial games in the reserves with Thistle. Nicol had brought you in, and he'd obviously seen you'd already brought sort of Dools to the club, and you got your 1 year contract. You made your debut against Airdrie, as you said, as a half-time sub, ironically, for Dools, and then you scored twice in your home debut. You also,
I never knew that. It was Dools. I never knew it was Dools I came on for. No.
And then a half-time sub for Mark Corcoran for your home debut, and which was in the CIS Cup in those days. It was called. But he also scored the equaliser against. You've probably very few Thistle players have ever done this, but scored an equaliser against Liverpool.
That's right. Aye, that's right. It was Archie's testimonial.
That's right. Aye.
That's right. I remember that. Aye, that was a good night. That was, like you said, probably only a few weeks into my time there when Archie got his testimonial. And then I think the only other player was Simon Donnelly. He'd scored against Liverpool, like, for real.
Right.
Obviously, nice isn't he, for real? But I remember him saying to me after the game, "Welcome to the club," and all this. But aye, at least his was a real goal.
They all count. Take it.
I know. Well, I remember at the time, obviously, that's only a few games into the season. I'd scored 2 on my home debut and then scored against Liverpool. I'm like, this is easy, this game. This is...
See, if it's a Liverpool game, can you name drop anyone that played in that?
But I couldn't.
Oh.
Andy. I couldn't tell you a single name. In fact, I think the boy, is it Nathan Eccleston that ended up playing for Kilmarnock? In fact, he played for Thistle, did he?
Aye.
I'm almost certain he came for Liverpool and he was maybe playing that night, but I might be miles off. I don't know.
We need to look at it. Like, it was a young team, wasn't it?
Aye. There was nobody you would have recognised.
Nathan Eccleston's finest moment was to score the 5th goal when Doolan scored 4, didn't he? Aye.
Actually, I watched that the other day. I'd actually texted Dool saying I've watched your goals about 10 times a day, and I remember seeing that Nathan Eccleston had scored the last one.
I call that game the Nathan Eccleston game. He got a goal.
What was your step up from part-time to full-time, like, football-wise?
I remember at the time it was tough, just because I'd never done it before. Obviously, I was just training twice a week or whatever, and then you're asked to train 4 or 5 times a week or whatever, kind of full-time. So I remember it being tough, and I remember taking a wee lull. My first season wasn't great anyway, if you even look at the stats. Like, I think I only scored 1 other goal. I never really started many games. I come on as a sub most weeks, I would say. So I think it took me a wee while to get used to it. I think even just by looking at that, you can see that. I remember, again, saying to Dools at the time, because he'd done the same thing. I remember saying, like, I feel like I'm struggling with the training and that. And he said, listen, I was totally the same. When I come in, you'll get used to it. And then you do it. It's like everything else. The more you kind of do something, the more you practice it. It's the same as everything in life, isn't it? You get used to it, get used to training with the guys around you and stuff. And then I guess if you're kind of good enough and put the effort in, then you reap the benefits, I guess.
You still made 40 appearances that season.
Aye, that's what I mean. I think most of them were off. Aye, most of them were off the bench. I think some of them were only for maybe 10 minutes or so or whatever. But so I think.
Taking a cast your mind back to that, Chris, can you think of a moment where you felt, I belong here? I'm comfortable now. Is there a moment that happened in a game or something like that, or anything specific?
I can't see to be perfectly honest. I can't remember a time where I felt like I was like that was me kind of settled. I guess the fact I think I'd only signed a year to start with, and then I think very early on, it could have been maybe the October or November that Nicol offered me another year. So I think obviously maybe at that point I kind of maybe relaxed a wee bit and thought that I was obviously doing something something to show that I was maybe deserving and being there, I guess.
If I can cast your mind back, there was a game that I recall, and me and my son were talking about it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a pre-season game against Celtic. There was some like wee kind of cup thing I think we had on.
That's
and
right.
He played the right hand side up against Izagiri that night.
Uh-huh.
I think he must have been coming back for injury, and you utterly roasted them in the first half.
I remember that, to be fair.
Yeah.
Aye. I remember that because even though it was a pre-season game or whatever, Celtic still brought a good few fans to Firhill. And I remember we all played pretty well that day as well. But I think that's probably the first time I came up against somebody of that kind of stature, if you would call it that. But I think you're right. I think he was coming back for injury at the time. But No, that was a decent game. Was that the same? I don't know if it was the same year we played Everton as well, was it?
It was 11-12. It was
Craig Cup or something it's called.
Craig Cup, because we played Celtic the season as well. And
right.
In a season, and I think we beat. Oh, it was a Celtic 11 and won that 2-1. Because that's what I was going to say. If you look at, but maybe when you felt as though you'd started to have a bit of belief in yourself, was probably season 10-11. Again, I mean, that ended up, a change of management later on that season. But your 2 goals against Falkirk early on, and and I mean, you had 8 goals that season. There was a Challenge Cup semi-final, which Ross County beat us in penalty. Ironically, I think it's Steph Craig that scored the winner.
That's right.
But again, I'm looking at that season. You had the 2 against Falkirk. January the 18th, the Scottish Cup game, you scored the winner against Falkirk. That was obviously a start of a team that you thought, right, okay, I can do something against this lot.
Aye, that's it. I think that's probably when I was starting to kind of bed myself in, I would say, and start really becoming a kind of a first team regular. I think up to that point, like I said, the first season was definitely just sub appearances on the most part, and then the second year I think I made obviously more starts, and then I think that would have been the third season then when I really started to probably play most weeks. Probably starting to play kind of week in, week out. So I think that gives you confidence, obviously, that if once you start to feel part of it and feel like you're one of the kind of first names that's going to be involved in the teams. I always say that. I always think every single player needs a run of games to start producing their good form. And you see, even at the top level as well, if guys are coming in and out the team, you're like, he doesn't look great. He's not going to make it here. And then see if they get 4, 5, 6 games in a row, you really see the best of people. And I've always thought that kind of throughout my career. I know we'll speak about it, but I never got it at United my first year. I probably never got it when I first came to Thistle for the first couple of seasons. And I think everybody who's a footballer will tell you the same. You need that few games, even you get up to kind of match speed. You can be fit, but you're not match fit until you start playing 4, 5, 6 games in a row, I would say.
Yeah. How big were I mean, you look at some of the players around in your early days, Simon Donnelly, Liam Buchanan, Kearney, Archie, all these, guys, sort of had a bit of experience and stuff. And Sid, you mentioned Sid, Simon Donnelly. Yeah, all these guys around you. How big an influence, and how good was getting that Jackie McNamara, obviously, who then went on to become manager later that season 10-11. How big a help were they for you coming in? They just looked after you. That's the main thing. I remember even guys like Hinchy and John Robertson. Maxie was there at the time as well, obviously. So when I first went, we had a really experienced dressing room. So they did their best to look after you. I'll say that about them. They really kind of made you feel welcome. You got a bit of banter off them and that as well. Maybe they'll take the mick at you and that. But I know they definitely looked after you. I remember even at the time, I'd never kind of really been in the gym at that point, and remember being in the gym with Big Archie and him showing me a couple of exercises and stuff like that. Like, so they looked after you. And then just touching on guys like Sid and Jackie and that, I grew up as a Celtic fan when I was younger. I couldn't care less now, right enough, but I did when I was younger. My whole family were Celtic fans. So like from going through that and then being in a dressing room with Simon Donnelly and being in a dressing room with Jackie and stuff, sometimes I was like, Jesus, I didn't feel real at some points, if you know what I mean. So like I said, I always felt like I was kind of lucky, especially at that point, kind of lucky to be there.
Before Ian McCall left, was it him that gave you your nickname? Aye.
That was like first, maybe second day of pre-season or something. Like just in the door with all these kind of experienced guys like I'm talking about, and then we were down at Pollock Park, where the boys still train now, I think. And we were training on the grass, and I think we were just doing a circuit or something. And I think Ian McCall's boy would have been young at that time. So he must have been watching SpongeBob SquarePants or whatever. And he said in front of all the boys, I think the new boy looks like Squidward for SpongeBob SquarePants. And then that was that kind of thing. So it was one of the ones, like people always tell you growing up, if anyone ever like calls you names, don't take the bait, just let it, just laugh it off and it'll go away kind of thing. But that's been, 13 years now? It's stuck. So that advice never worked.
No,
I always say I've been called a lot worse. A lot worse.
No, sometimes nicknames, they come from nowhere and they just stick, and that's it. You're stuck with it, you know.
That's it.
Well, the following season 11-12, not surprising that he scored against Falkirk that season as well. But that was a kind of up and down season for us. I think we finished about 5th or 6th in the league. But there's one thing, and I know a lot of the boys, and I think you and I spoke about this years ago when I was doing programming and stuff like that, was that the Hamilton game where we drew 2 each at the end of the last game of that season. Jackie had sat every one of you down and said, we're going to win the league next season.
That's right. Aye, that's right. It's strange, isn't it? And then obviously the next season was we done it. So, but I think we, like you kind of mentioned there, we had the basis of that. That team that kind of finished off that season was a team who was obviously adding on a couple after that came in, like with Stevie and stuff. But I think we kind of knew right away, and that was actually that cup. I'm just thinking now, that Ara Crab Cup or whatever it was, that was in that pre-season, the following pre-season, and it was when we really done well in that pre-season competition. We thought, by the way, we look decent this year, and then I think as soon as the season started, we just kind of knew. Well, and we've spoken about this before, but we just knew right away. It's a strange thing to explain, and people say, "Okay, you didn't. You're just saying that," but we did. We just knew that we had a right good team that year, and we'd covered all the bases all over the pitch, kind of thing, and we had players to hurt other teams, and we just went on strength to strength, kind of thing.
You always felt that team, that everybody and that team got on well. That's what it all like for watching the team, you know.
Aye, they did, and I think that's a massive thing in football. If you can get the basis of a good dressing room where there's no kind of cliques. I've seen it over the years where there's kind of wee groups here and wee groups there, but that dressing room was brilliant. And you see, even to this day, like we kind of meeting up last year or whenever it was for Dules's kind of testimonial stuff and that, and it's like, it's obviously been years now. Like, is that nearly 10 years now, or 9 years? Like, but it still feels like yesterday, if you know what I mean. And if I bumped into any of the boys from that title winning team, it would still feel like I'd seen them yesterday, kind of thing. So a real special team, and again, I guess I'm just kind of privileged to have been a part of it.
Just what you're saying about how you decided you felt that it was going to happen that year. It spread to the sport as well, because you could see the confidence through the team, and as Ian was saying there, you could see that was a group that really wanted to play with each other. Every goal, everybody celebrated. Yeah. You know, everybody joined in the celebrations. It was just such a brilliant season to watch. I know, it was a special time, wasn't it? It was special for the players, and I'm sure it was special for you guys as well. It was brilliant. It's memories that I've made that I will never ever forget.
Yeah. Well, I picked out a few. I picked out a few of your own highlights and that, and like I say, you get the first goal of the season away to Forth in the League Cup, but the double against Queen's Park in a 5-4 win, 2 against Wraith Rovers in the quarter-finals of the Ramsdens, 2 against Airdrie in a 7-0 win past Kenny Arthur, if I remember rightly.
Kenny Arthur
mentioned that to me a few times. Aye. He says that ended his career.
Another 2 in the January win against Falkirk, where you were unplayable that day, the 4-1 game. You also get the first goal at Archie's reign at Morton. It was pretty much your seat. And I remember absolute world day in the February against Airdrie. We were standing in the north stand, and as soon as it left your foot, it was like a traction engine right away past the keeper in the corner. That was incredible. The 6-1 Livy win, that was 6 different scorers that game. And obviously you scored the title winning clinching goal as well. You know, where that played?
But that was brilliant because we were behind the goal and you were coming towards us. You know what I mean? And you could see from when you got the ball halfway line, I think it was, you could everyone's on their feet already because you could just see he's heading for goal and he's just going to go past these guys and just slot it in. It was brilliant.
Aye. Good times. That was my favourite goal. You're probably going to ask me later, but that'll always be my favourite.
How good was the Queen's Park game to play in?
That was mad. I actually never started that game. I think
Changed, didn't you?
I think it was Welshie. I think Welshie got a head knock after about 8 minutes. I think, again, because of the season, it had started so well that the manager had just left a couple of us out, kind of thing. And I wasn't expecting to play. And then I think it was Welshie, I'm sure, got a head knock or a face knock or something after about 8 minutes. And I get flung on. But it was mad. It was, I've watched it back since then, obviously. And some of the goals were brilliant. Like Lord Shankland was playing that day, and Andy Robertson was playing.
That's right.
That day as well. So some brilliant goals for both teams in that as well. It was mad. Strange.
What about that scene? Did you know when Jackie, obviously Jackie had taken us through, we were struggling, to be fair, up until that point, we were struggling away from home. You know, we were great at home, but away from home we were really struggling at a big style. And then obviously Jackie got the Dundee United job. At that point, was there any concern of where do we go for here? Or I know a lot of that, some of the boys have said actually it wasn't really that much of a change from when Archie, took over, as caretaker. But was there a different the style of the kind of player you are that this might change, the dynamic?
I think at the time we all would have thought that. We all would have thought, what's going to happen now? And I think that's probably why we all wanted Archie to get the job. Like I think we were all pretty vocal in saying, just give it to Archie to the end of the season. I think kind of credit to Archie when he took the job. He tried not to change anything, probably because we were doing so well. And obviously the only thing was, like you said, probably the away performances weren't great. But I think that was kind of credit to Archie. He stuck to the same training and stuff that we were doing. And then obviously as time goes on, he would have got his own ideas and put his own stamp on things. But I think that was the right thing to do at the time. Obviously, he was a big part of his dressing room anyway, because he was the captain. He was a leader anyway. So I think we were all desperate for him to get the job. And obviously turned out to be the best decision for the club. Was
the celebration at Morton pre-planned?
Aye. So we'd spoke about it before the game. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but I think it was a few weeks before there was the first game for Archie. I might be wrong, but I think there was a few weeks of a kind of build-up where we were all saying that we hoped Archie would get the job, and then obviously that being his first game, we were desperate for a good start for him. So we'd said before the game, whoever scores first, we'll make a beeline for Archie, just to kind of celebrate with him and show that we're all in it together, kind of thing. So, and it just so happened that it was me that scored.
Donners.
Listen, just so many great memories from that team, Chris. I think a lot of us look back, and that's the benchmark. We had some other pretty good seasons. The top six finish, obviously, but that the style of football in there was just, and you were fundamental to that. It wasn't like you were a part of that team. You were one of the main players. But did you get player of the season that year? Yeah.
I was nominated for the player of the year for the whole league. Right. We went to the PFA awards and stuff, and I was in the team of the year, as a few of the boys were. And I was nominated for player of the year, but Lyle Taylor won it. I think Lyle had scored, he scored about 30 goals or something for Falkirk that year, but I should have won it.
Aye.
Absolutely.
But it was special football. So, and when you look at a lot of the boys have moved on and had a really successful career at it, it's and I think Nicol said it quite recently that's the standard he wants. He wants to get young, hungry footballers in again.
Yeah.
Get the fans excited. So that's something we all look forward to, don't we?
That's it. Aye, hopefully that's the way. I think that's the best kind of that season. We had a lot of guys who'd been released for other clubs, and then guys like myself and Dools and stuff who'd came up kind of through the juniors and stuff. So it was just a right good mixture of boys wanting to prove themselves, I think, and then boys who were all good players, and then obviously the way the managers kind of set us out to play and just to try and enjoy our football and that as well, which was, as a player, is all you ever want to do. You just want to enjoy playing football, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're at clubs and you don't enjoy it, the style of play and stuff. So, and again, every single player, if you asked anybody who was in that team, I'd imagine if you ask them every time, even when they retire, where's your favourite time that you played, it'll be that season, without a doubt.
It's such great attacking football.
Sorry, Alan, you go.
I was just going to say, it was such a great attacking team, right from the full-backs forward, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were fundamental to it as well, because they could bomb forward and, just the amount of players we would get forward in the opposite half, so many games. It was great to watch,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, do you feel that a lot of the players felt that they had a point to prove, like they'd maybe came from other clubs and been released by other clubs, and they felt that they were now involved in a group, and as I say, they knew they had a point to prove. Do you think that was the case?
Aye, 1,000,000%. I think so. Like, you'd had boys like Welshie, who I've mentioned before, who was at Hibs when he was younger, even wee Lawless at Motherwell, and get released. So, and I think it was right through the squad. We had a lot of boys like that. So I think you probably, if that happens to you, you probably your pride and stuff takes a wee bit of a beating, and if you've got that fire inside you to go and do the best that you think you can do. And I think that's what we got that year. We got, like I said, we got that mixture right of kind of younger guys who maybe hadn't been at that level, and boys who'd been released from that level and ready to prove themselves.
Yeah.
You'd signed obviously there was a thing in March, and the timing wasn't exactly perfect for that, but you'd signed, you and Pates had signed the pre-contract. Pates took a bit of a pillar over it, which at the time I thought was unfair, and it has been since. And it was only really, I think, at Archie's, not Archie's, at Dulce's testimonial when he came back, that I think Thistle fans kind of forgave him. But I can remember you didn't get anything, but I remember Pates took a bit of a pounding on Twitter because he actually answered back and said, and he was right in what he said. I remember this at the time, and I'll still defend Pates to this day. He was looking after his wee lassie at the time.
Exactly.
You know, and you kind of you didn't seem to get the same thing.
No.
I don't know whether that was down to the fact that Pates had answered back and you just gone ahead. I still to this day feel sorry for Pates for that. It's a huge part.
Pates was a massive part of the team. One of the most important parts of the team, I would say, that year, in terms of driving the team forward, and it does a job that every team needs. I think just touching on that, like I did get a bit of it to start with when it first came out. Now, me and Pates didn't want it to come out. That's the first thing we said when we went up there. We were promised. We were actually promised. We were saying we're only signing this if we promise. You promise us it doesn't come out to the end of the season because we've got too much to lose here and too much to focus on. And we were promised it. And I think it was by the time we were down the road, it'd been looked at. It was ridiculous. But I did get a wee bit of stick at first. I remember on Twitter and stuff, I was getting some messages and stuff sent to me. But I think that was the difference, that Pates bit back and said, and that's Pates' personality. Like Pates still like that to this day, still the same. He doesn't like anybody having a go at him if he thinks he's in the right kind of thing. So he bit back, and I think he was right as well. But I think I dealt with it just differently. And I remember at the time just posting saying, listen, it's just the right thing for me to do. I've loved it here and I'll give my all. But I remember at the time people messaging, even me, saying you should never play for the club again and all that. Like, and I couldn't tell you who it was. Like, and it's probably only a handful of people. But I remember at the time thinking, like, this is the exact opposite of what I wanted to happen, kind of thing. Do you know what? I think after that, it made me even more desperate to do well for the rest of the season, kind of thing, and just to prove to everybody that, because I think just like any player in any club, if they go and sign for somewhere else, you might think, okay, he's not bothered now. Like he's got his head on next season. Whereas for me, it was the total opposite, to be honest.
There was no question of that watching you or Paul Payton playing the rest of that season at all.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate it came out when it did. I mean, I remember at the time you saying this was not meant to be leaked just now. If it had happened at the end of the season, people would have had a different view of it, you know. But
yeah,
you certainly can't be accused of not trying the rest of that season.
I know. You know? And it's, do you know what? She's a footballer as well. You hear about loyalty and stuff all the time. It works both ways, but you've got to look after yourself, and that's just the thing. Like I was kind of not uneasy on it, but I was probably less wanting to do it at that time than Pates, I would say. And I think it made it easier for me to go because Pates was going. Because the two of us went up there together, we got shown the training ground, we got shown the stadium, and at the time we were like, what a step up for us. Like, no disrespect to Thistle at the time, but I think we were still training wherever we could get at that point. Like, you turned up every day and you were training somewhere different. And at Dundee United they had the training ground and stuff, which was amazing. So it was just one of the things. And see as a footballer, like I said there, at times I would give advice to somebody else, and I see if somebody puts something in front of you, I think you're very stupid to turn it down, because anything can happen. I could have touched wood, I could have got a bad injury in the next game and not signed that contract, and God knows what would have happened to me. So it's just that's the kind of nature of the beast in football, and unfortunately that's just the way it is. And at the end of the day, it's a job to us as well. Like, it's just the same as everybody else in their career and whatever career they've got. So it's just one of the things that happened at the time. If you ask me if I regret it, obviously looking back how it went for me and stuff, then, but that's hindsight, isn't it? And at the time I thought Dundee United are up the top of the league all the time. We just were hoping to get promoted, but always in cup finals and semi-finals and stuff. And I just thought, if I go up there, this could take my career to a new kind of high. So one of the things.
Well, listen, Chris, you'll know by now, like, we all know football fans are fickle, you know. I think though, like, most Thistle players that leave, they do get a bit of an unfair hard time, and from afar, the majority were totally comfortable with you, and I think that's because of the impact that you made as a player. But you look at the team you joined, I mean, at the time they were flying, they had a cracking setup, you know. It was just their ownership blew it up, you know. Yeah. That's where they ended up 10 years of disaster almost for them, you know. I wouldn't regret that at all.
Yeah. You knew when you were coming back anyway. You started singing about it.
That was one of the highlights. That was brilliant. That was like getting it right up you moment when you signed that pre-contract for us. That was like a line in the sand to say, look, we're here, we're doing this.
Well, you went up there after the title winning season, so we're into 13-14. You kind of started. We're talking about fans being fickle. And I remember Dundee United fans being very fickle about you at the start, but you had some injury issues in your first season up there.
I just had a nightmare. I had a nightmare, to be perfectly honest, when I went up there. I don't mind saying it. Like, and I don't know if it was just from, again, being desperate to do well and prove yourself, because like you said, again, and it's social media, people get it all the time, but I remember people saying, oh, who's this? Why are we signing this guy? And it's a natural thing again. And that comes for teams who have been in the top league for so many years, and they think they should sign boys for better clubs, and they think they should sign foreign players who, I don't know, are a better league or whatever you call it. So I remember at the time having, again, people saying, we shouldn't be signing this boy, blah, blah, blah. And maybe that was the reason, but I've not really got an excuse for it. But I had a nightmare. We played Thistle was the first game, and I came on as a sub. I never really done anything wrong that day. But then we played, and I think we played Inverness at home the following week, and I just had one of the games that I'm sure you guys have seen me have 100 of them, where it just bounced off me, and I stood on the ball a lot more than I usually stand on the ball, and stuff like that. So, and I ended up, after 60 minutes, I basically get cheered. I get subbed and I get basically cheered off, and I never really recovered for that after that. And again, I was hoping the next week that I'd be flung back in for the start, and I kind of hoped that Jackie would say, no, I signed him, I know what he's like, he'll play here, and he never. And I was on the bench, and then I think towards the end of the year, so towards the end of November, December, I was coming on as a sub again, like I did when I first went to Thistle, and Jackie was under pressure, I think. And then I got the phone call basically to say that would I like to go back to Thistle for the rest of the season, and I jumped at it kind of thing, just to try and get back, and because my confidence was shot. Like, see, again, and at the time I would have said, no, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with me and all that. But looking back now and how I played, even when I went back to Thistle, I wasn't, that season I went back on loan, I wasn't the same player that I was the 6 months before I'd left, and I think it was because my confidence was absolutely shot. So So it just didn't work out that first season.
Well, when you came back, your first goal was the infamous 4-3 game where we should have saw it out, mind it for part. You'd come back, and then your first home goal was just one of your normal tap-ins for 20 yards, against Cadbury's.
I remember, I
remember that one.
I remember that. It was a good move. I remember, I've seen that back loads of times because they post it all the time on the SPFL pages and all that. So I remember it was a good move down the right with Higgy and a couple of other boys, and it came into the box. I think Dill's dummied it and then I hit into the net. So a good goal. But again, like if I'm looking back, I never done as well as I wanted to. I think coming back, I'd be comfortable again and confident again. And maybe looking back now, it maybe just hit my confidence really badly that season. Because I think it was about 15 games I played towards the end of the season, and then I get left out at Tynecastle. Remember the night we actually stayed up? I was on the bench that night, and I think just because my performances hadn't been what they should be, and actually left me out, which was again the right decision. So
I think you're maybe a wee bit harsh on yourself, Chris. You think we had Lyle Taylor, Higginbottom, yourself, and Doolan. I mean, that's quite a tasty front four. And a team floundering down the bottom of the league, and they're going to play four strikers all the time, And Taylor and Higginbottom that season in particular, he was electric.
Higgy was brilliant. Higgy was fantastic. That's when I came back. He was what a player he was that season. Again, he probably made the wrong choice by leaving as well, but he was fantastic that season. That game you mentioned, Raymond, the one at Fir Park. He was absolutely brilliant. He was unbelievable that day.
He was amazing. But did we not sub him near the end or something like that? We off to
taking some abuse for the other fans there.
He did. But he went off to a standing ovation and we still managed to lose that game. I don't know how we lost that game.
I think me and him came off at the same time, and I was kidding on the ovation was for me. I think that's.
Well, listen.
When you went back to United, did you win their Player of the Year award that following season?
Yeah, I had a really good season. The next season, and again, I don't know if it was looking back now. I don't know if it was just the pressure was off me. See, because I went back that season and I thought it's either going to work for me here or it's not going to work for me. And I never had it in writing or anything, but I was pretty confident if it didn't work out there, then I would go back to Thistle. So I guess I was going up there with a kind of free hit at it, and maybe that was what worked for me best. That the pressure was off me a wee bit, and I had a really good season. I scored in the first game of the season up at Aberdeen, and then I think about 5 or 6 games into the season, I was the top scorer in the Premier League or something like that. It was mad. So, and we were brilliant that season for the first 6 months. We were top of the league at Christmas, or we were very, very close to Celtic. We were flying, and I was playing most weeks. And then in the January, that's when they sold Mackay-Steven and they sold Armstrong. And then for there, we plummeted for there. And I think we finished 5th or 6th or whatever that year. But you could kind of almost see the writing on the wall for the following season.
See, touching on that, Chris, do you think confidence is a big part of your game?
I think so, I think, again, I probably would have said at the time, no. But I think, see when you look back, and I think probably the older you get and the more kind of wiser you get, it is definitely. Confidence is massive in everybody, but probably especially me. And I guess that's why I think I done so well at Thistle, was because I was kind of accepted, and it was like the running joke that I would follow the ball, but I would still maybe produce something and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that's just the pressure was off me probably most of the time at Firhill, and that's probably when you seen the best of me.
What you're saying about Thistle fans, I think we're used to sort of eccentric players coming along like Chick, before my time a wee bit, Dennis McQuaid, guys who could do something outstanding, but also make an arse of things now and again, which is, I think that's Thistle fans are always accepting of that, because that's where we're at,
I guess that's just been lucky for me then, that's where I ended up.
I think, Chris, can I just ask, you seem to have a special skill of being able to completely get the ball under control, but look as if you haven't. and then fools the defenders into thinking you don't have it, and then you go past two of them and score. You can't teach that, can you?
You can't, exactly. We Lawless has said to me through my whole career, you're a big jammy bastard, all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, Lawless, you can't be jammy for 12 years. Like, absolutely not. You can't just be lucky the whole time.
It's your style, you know what I mean? It's not that you're falling over the ball. You just sometimes look as if you were about to lose it and then you'd regain.
I'm not your typical looking, you know? I'm not your typical looking footballer, I'll give you that.
looking back on it though, you think the 2012 winning team, right? So obviously you're selling Pates got to Dundee United, and that season, mate, you talk to Scottish football fans in general, they'll wax lyrical about Armstrong, Mackay, Stephen, Robertson, Chief G, and all that talent. But you were a player of the year, and I was looking at Paul Payton won the SPFL Player of the Month award.
That's right.
September, October. So you were obviously two fundamental parts. You know, just looking back, that just shows you the level. I
know. I remember at the time feeling half done by, like when Armstrong and Mackay Stephen left, and they were saying, "Oh well, that's." And to be fair, it happened. Like we did go 2-0, but they were like, "Oh, what a miss that will be." And I think by that point, I'd played more games than Stuart and Gaz, and I'd scored more goals than them and that as well. And I was thinking, how would it be a miss when I'm here? Like, you know what I mean? But seriously, like at the time, and that's again, I think because Ryan Dow was there as well. Ryan Dow's it, and I always liked Dow's. I thought he was a brilliant player, and he's doing really well again at Dunfermline now. But he was the same. He played a lot of football that year and scored a good few goals as well. And I think when they left, it was like, oh well, that's it. The wheels will come off now. And me and him were both like, we're just totally getting overlooked here, like, and making a wee bit of a joke of it, kind of thing. But to be fair, that's what happened. So,
who was the best of all of them up there? Who was the best talent you thought of all of them? Was it Gold or was it Robertson or what?
Both of them. I remember when I first went in and I seen wee Gold. I think he was only 16 or 17 at the time, and I was actual gobsmacked. I was like, wow, what a player this wee guy is. Just so much kind of confidence and his technical ability and stuff like that. And then obviously had done really well that season. I obviously came back to Thistle, but he was a brilliant wee talent. And then the same with Andy. Again, I've told this story before, but we were over in Germany for pre-season. Me and Pates were sharing a room, and we only had Andy Robertson as a left back. And Graham Carey was in trial. Remember Graham Carey? Yeah. He was at St Mirren and stuff. He was in trial and he looked really good. And he was playing left back for St Mirren, I think, the season before or whatever he was before. And he looked really good. And me and Paige sitting at night saying, you'll need to sign Carey, yeah? And we're like, he'll sign. He's not going to go with Robertson. He's not going to go with Andy on his own for the start of the Premier League. He's only just came for League Two or whatever it was at the time. And then, obviously, as time went on, never signed Graham Carey and went with Andy. But it just shows you, like, that's one thing, one of the best bits about Jackie anyway. See, if he thought you were good enough, that was good enough for him, if you know what I mean. And he gave him a good chance. Andy, he gave wee Goldie the chance to go and play. He gave John Suter the chance to go and play, who's at Hearts now and stuff like that as well. So but both of them at the time I thought Gold was something else. I really did for such a young age kind of thing. So, but you could see it with Andy as well, how good he was in training, how quick he was and stuff like that. And you don't need me to tell you how well he done that year and what he's done since.
That's right, good stuff.
You eventually came back your season back at Fickle after the pre-contract. Was the season we finished top six. And we spoke to Stevie a bit about that. He says, I can get it for the fans, but as a player's finishing top six, it's not really, he says, I wasn't there kind of that bothered about it, you know. Whereas for the fans, it was huge finishing top six, you know, that season. But he said at the time, he said, you know, it's great for the club and, you know, for that. He says, I think much of it as a player, you know. He says, especially after the split.
Because he didn't get a medal for it, probably. That'll be the. But I thought it was brilliant because, do you know what? See, again, it took the pressure right off you. Because see, like when the top six and the bottom six, even if you were in that 7th place when it's split, then you're playing every single team below you, and you can get dragged into it, and then the next thing you know, you're right down there and fighting for your place in the league. So I thought it was massive. Like, I wouldn't agree with that. I wouldn't say it's as good as winning the league in terms of a player and stuff like that, but still at the time, I thought it was a brilliant achievement for the club. But I thought it just took the whole pressure off us. And then I know we never won a game, I don't think, in the top 6, but like you'd a bit your hand off for that all day kind of thing.
Yeah. But back to earlier on that season, you scored an absolute worldie. An Aberdeen fan said it's probably the hardest shot he's ever seen hit at Tawdry. Honestly, he actually tweeted that during the week. The hardest shot I've ever seen hit was Chris Erskine consolation at Tawdry in the August. It was some straight. I saw it again the other day.
Right. It's not a typical goal of mine, I would say either. It's not. I don't think I was ever known for that, hitting the ball kind of hard, but probably just frustration getting beaten. Like a chance comes to you like that.
Especially beaten set in Welsh off that game, wasn't it? Two nothing tackles and two red card.
Well, I get sent off. He got one booking was for a foul, the other one was for talking back to the linesman.
Was it? Oh, was it?
I was hey, don't just leave it, and then away you go. Just a minute. But he's another player, Chris. I don't think get the credit that he deserved. Welsh, I thought he was such a big part of that team.
He was definitely. I don't know if it's just because maybe never scored as many goals as kind of your Stevies or me or Dools or whatever, but similar to Pates, definitely didn't get the credit they deserved, and both of them in terms of the way they would move the ball, the way they would break up play. Welshie probably more so getting kind of box to box and being the kind of real engine room. So Welshie had great quality as well. Great, really, really good player. Looked after himself really well. Just so unfortunate with injuries. Kind of afterwards, and it wasn't down to doing the right things, if you know what I mean. You'd always find him in the gym looking after himself and stuff. So just one of the guys that's been really unfortunate with it, but a great player.
What we do here is go back.